Hi everyone, thank you for joining our webinar on business continuity. We will get started in 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay, thanks for joining our webinar on business continuity. My name is Ian Evans. I will be your host for the webinar today. The webinar will go for an hour. Before we get started, please note this webinar will be recorded. We will be sending out the link to all attendees tomorrow. So if you have any questions, please enter it in the chat window below. We will answer your question at the end of the session. Please note this webinar is in listen-only mode. ETech has been providing system support and information technology consulting services to our client base since 1991. We are a wholly Canadian-owned and operated corporation, attributing our strength and success to our close working relationship with each and every one of our clients, regardless of size. We help not-for-profits, regulatory body, and SMB thrive by delivering business continuity solutions, hosting services, internet security, IT support solutions, and web design services. Most recently, we have partnered with DATTO'S, an innovative provider of comprehensive backup, recovery, and business continuity solutions used by thousands of organizations worldwide. We host and support diverse industry websites. As a hosting customer, your organization will enjoy the unique advantage of having your website hosted by a single Canadian provider. Our hosting services team delivers customized configurations from simple website hosting to mission-critical e-commerce and database hosting services on shared, virtual, and dedicated servers. We align technology with our clients' goals, objectives, and bottom lines. We leverage expertise, customer relationships, and a diversified range of best-of-breed cloud storage services to create custom solutions with tangible value. Our not-for-profit client base ranges from professional membership to construction and infrastructure, regulatory bodies, real estate property, financial services, transit, public safety, and healthcare services. I would now like to welcome Michael De Palma. Michael is the Channel Development Manager from DATTO'. Michael?
Thank you, Ian. So I am Mike DePalma, Channel Development Manager at Datto. I'm going to give you a brief history of Datto. I know typically this slide is a boring slide for folks, the history of the company, but I think not only is it a cool story that we have, but it's important because at the end of the day, we're protecting the data of a lot of folks, so it's important to know the company. So we were founded in 2007. We're based out of Norwalk, Connecticut, which is about 40 miles east of Manhattan. Founded in 2007, our CEO actually just turned, well, he will be 31 next month. If we do the math, he started this company when he was 22 years old, built his first device in his parents' basement, went online, sold it, and we've been off and running ever since. Fast forward to Q4 of last year, and we received from the Wall Street Journal a $1 billion valuation. So he truly took this company from his parents' basement to a $1 billion valuation. We are up over 700 employees worldwide, and we're growing. We have offices in Boston. We have an office up in Toronto, the UK, Australia, Singapore. So we've got offices all over the world. And you might be thinking, this is a $1 billion company right outside of Manhattan. Many of you folks probably haven't heard of us. And the reason for that is simple. Instead of investing our money into the big advertising campaigns, and you don't see us with billboards at the airports or hear us on the radio or on TV, instead we've invested back into the product and into support. So 70% of our folks are in support and development because at the end of the day, our CEO, Austin, he wanted to create a product that worked and that we can support, and that's what we've done thus far. We have been profitable throughout. It is not a company that is propped up with a $1 billion valuation based on speculation or from investors. It's been a profitable company throughout as we've grown. We've grown with our partners. We do protect over 200 petabytes of data worldwide. To give you a sense of how large a petabyte is, if you were to download some play MP3 files, 1 petabyte would allow you to play an MP3 files playing consecutively for 2,000 years. So if you think about the amount of data 200 petabytes is, it's a lot of data. What's important for the folks up in Canada is we do have 2 Canadian data centers. So we've got one in Toronto and one out in Calgary. And I'm going to get to the importance of those 2 locations in a minute, but it's important because we want to let everyone know that for the Canadian clients, your data will stay in Canada. It's not going to the U.S., although we are based in the U.S. and we have data centers in the U.S. We really try to build data centers in all the countries where we have units deployed. So we've got a data center out in the UK, we've got one in Germany, now we have one in Singapore, we opened that office, one in Australia, one in Iceland. So it's really important to us to not have to cross over geographical lines to get your data. So we'll stay in Canada, so it's very important. The bulk of this conversation is to kind of rethink backup in general. For years, people have viewed backup as somewhat of an insurance policy, right? I need a second copy of my data in case some sort of disaster strikes. The issue with that is, we're all humans, and human nature is going to say, those things are never going to happen to me, right? The fires or the floods, tornadoes, any of those type of natural disasters that a lot of people think backup is in place to protect. We do studies internally to see what causes downtime and what the need for restores is. And 97% of all downtime have nothing to do with these type of disasters, not the fires or the floods or any of those natural disasters. The leading cause of downtime, and it's not even close, is user error, right? It's us downloading the wrong file, clicking on the wrong hyperlink, opening the wrong email attachment, those type of things. That's what's causing the majority of downtime. And that's why instead of just thinking of backup as a insurance policy in case of one of these disasters, it's really a protection against yourself, and you really want a business continuity solution that's going to get you back up and running. Really, regardless of where you're getting your news, whether it's online or for the old-fashioned papers, you're going to be bombarded with these cybersecurity type stories. This is an older one. It's about a manufacturing company out of Pennsylvania that was hacked. But the reason we have it is for this quote from the Wall Street Journal. It says, at least one employee will click on anything. And that goes for us too at Datto, even though we're in the world of backup and disaster recovery. We still get the emails that go out from our operations team to all@datto.com that say, hey, there's a suspicious email going around. Please don't click on that attachment. If you get this email, please notify us, which means they were alerted of it. Most likely somebody clicked on it, right? So think of how easy it is for you and the folks in your office to get duped into clicking on the wrong email. Obviously, there's we hear a lot of stories about what's going on in the U.S., but there's stories in Canada about glitches and ransomware infections and all the rest, and you're going to see one every day. I mean, it's those type of things. And so the cost is not just in trying to get your data back, but it's in what is that cost of your downtime. When you don't have access to your data, what is that cost for you? Not just in hard dollars and cents, but in the the reputation to your business. You see now we live in the world of social media where one bad event here or one bad news cycle for you will be just spread around the internet, and you don't want that type of thing to come back to you. The FBI has called this the next epidemic, and that's ransomware. I'm sure a lot of the folks on the call have heard of ransomware. You might know a little bit about it, but it's something that's it's really sweeping the entire world right now. North America is probably the focus of it because the hackers know that that's where a lot of the money is. And in last year alone, $325 million was netted from ransomware, which is an astounding number when you think about the fact that most of these criminals are only asking for $800, $1,000, $1,200 at a time. So think about the amount of people that were not only infected, but didn't have a solution in place to protect them and had to pay that ransom. It's crazy to think about. And only 1 in 4 of these instances go reported at all. Most people just pay it because they need to get their data back. So it's crazy. I mean, you've probably heard recently the University of Calgary had to pay $20,000 in a ransomware attack. And there's some reports out there, and nothing's been confirmed, that they've lost years and years of student records that they just can't access, even with that, even with paying the ransomware attack. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not dealing with the most honest folks in the world. So you will get this email saying, you have to pay us this money, and I say it's $1,000. You pay that $1,000, and they'll say, well, that's great. Well, that's your first installment. Let's see what the second installment is before I give you your data back. So I do want to talk a little about what ransomware is, because there are some misconceptions out there. The criminals that are performing these ransomware attacks, they're not stealing your data. They really don't care what that data is. All they know is that it's very important to you and that you will pay to get it back because they know you can't lose it. So all they're really doing is encrypting the data. It's not leaving your system and going over anywhere. They're just encrypting it and holding it hostage and saying, if you pay us, we'll give it back. We'll give you the encryption key. They demand their money in Bitcoin, which anybody who's had to deal with Bitcoin knows is not the easiest currency to go out and get. It can be days before you can get access to Bitcoin, but the reason they do that is because it's untraceable, right? So they're recording it in Bitcoin. Like I said, most of the time they're only asking for a few hundred or maybe a few $1,000s, so they're not being reported to the authorities because the cost of you filing a report and doing all this and waiting 3 or 4 days of having no access to your data is going to be more than the $500 or $1,000 that they're charging you. That's kind of the gimmick of this whole thing. So what does it look like? Well, the days of the emails from your long-lost uncle that say, hey, give me $1,000, I'm going to send you over $1 million are gone because nobody's falling for those anymore. Nowadays, they're using very sophisticated social engineered phishing attacks, spear phishing attacks that are going to look like an email that comes from a coworker or your boss or another vendor. One of the things that we see very prevalent out in the world right now is the Netflix emails. It looks like it comes from your Netflix account. Hey, there's something wrong with your password. Please reset it. But if you were to scroll over those hyperlinks in that email, it's not sending you to your Netflix account. It's sending you to some squirrely website that's going to infect your data. Right? FedEx is another really big one that we see out there. It'll look like it's an email from FedEx. Click on this and see the update of your order. Probably get a lot of these every week. We all get those emails. You click on it, and this screen pops up, right? The ransomware attack. And you see the screen, and your heart drops, and you say, well, what do I do now? Well, I don't have access to anything. And really, although they're accessing it at the PC level, any server that particular person who opened that file has access to will be infected, and that's how it migrates through. So they have the ability to really infect any data that person has access to, and it's very simple. So, I mean, how do you safeguard against it? Most of these people, they're relying on the fact that they could dupe somebody into clicking on the wrong email. The vast majority of these are unintentional. Data loss for a long time was thought of as some sort of it's an inside job, right? It's a disgruntled employee that's maybe, they've given their 2 weeks notice and they're really angry and they want to go do something. But the reality is it's most of the time somebody just simply clicking on the wrong button. So what we preach, even though we offer this, our business continuity solution, it really starts with education, right? It's anyone that's on this call that's going to listen to the replay of it is already one step ahead. It's really educating yourself on what's out there, what to look for, and continuously doing that on a a quarterly basis or semi-annual basis, just keeping it fresh in everyone's mind in the office that these are the things that are out there, and just be be vigilant. Don't if something looks suspicious, just be careful about it. Report it to somebody else on your team to make sure that it looks okay before you open it. It's really creating that culture of security, and that's really where eTech comes in, and they do a great job of that. We've been doing this kind of social experiment. So my team, I'm on the business development team, and in addition to doing these type of webinars, I do a lot of industry presentations. We'll go out, we'll talk to IT support providers like eTech and the rest, and we go out and we present. There's a lot of other vendors in the space, and what we'll do is whatever location that we're in, we'll hire a local model. The last one that I did, and it worked flawlessly, was we were in New Brunswick, New Jersey a couple weeks ago. We hired a model. She's wearing a shirt that says Inverse Technologies. Now, this was a company that we just picked out of thin air. She's wearing a shirt that says Inverse Technologies, and during one of the breaks before my presentation, she's holding a bowl, okay? And in that bowl are these USB sticks. They're fancy-looking USB cards. They're kind of credit card shaped. They're pretty cool and sleek-looking. They say Inverse Technologies on them. And she says, hey, would you like an Inverse Technologies USB stick, courtesy of Inverse Technologies? And everybody takes them, okay? So everybody takes these cards. And then I'm giving my presentation. And during the middle of it, I'm showing videos. It's a little deeper dive into the technology and all the rest. And as I'm doing that, I say, you know what? I just got a new video from my marketing team. And I say I just had to, I had to submit my presentation ahead of time, so I didn't have time to put it in there. But I did put it on this USB stick. I hand it to one of my employees, and you see this video that's showing right now playing on the screen as I'm talking. And boom, this CryptoLocker screen comes up. And you see a room full of hundreds of managed service providers who are there to learn ways to protect their clients. They look down at this USB stick in their hand. They look up at me, and they say, first, there's this dummy from Datto just gave himself CryptoLocker live on stage. And B, I fell for it too. And now I'm yelling at my employee, what's going on? What did you do to me, and all the rest? And I say, you guys saw the woman, right? She looked nice enough, right? She's handing out those USB sticks. How was I supposed to know? Now she's long gone. And I tell them that, yeah, it's somebody we hired. Think of how easy that was. That's how easy it is to get infected with these type of things. That's a profitable thing. I mean, what's happening right now in the ransomware world is there's actually places you can go, and it's almost like a franchisee type program where there's places you can go on the bad places on the internet, and they'll teach you how to do this. And for a fee, they'll say, we'll set you all up. We'll give you the sample emails. We'll teach you exactly how to do all of these things, make money from your house, infecting people all over the world with ransomware, and let the money come in, and all we want is a little piece of it. That's how easy it is. And it's virtually impossible to really track it or to stop. Right now, I got a question. I was giving a presentation. They say, well, how come, the different governmental agencies aren't stopping these? Well, the problem is there's 4 million variants currently of ransomware out there. So as soon as they're able to shut one down, well, there's one down and 3.999 million to go. So it's impossible to shut them all down. So the idea here is to come up with a solution that if you do get infected, what can you do to protect yourself? And that's kind of where Datto comes in. So it's, instead of backup just being, a second copy of your data to go access, it's really about keeping you up and running. That's what we call business continuity, eliminating that downtime. So a lot of folks that we talk to will say, we'll talk about business continuity, and I'll always ask the question, so what are you using right now for business continuity? And, we get the same answers. We say, we hear from folks that say, yep, we've got a cloud backup solution. It's working great. And I say, that's great, to have a second copy of your data off-site. That's great. On its own, though, cloud backup is not business continuity. Local-only backup, including tape, probably still the most prevalent type of backup out there for companies. Again, better than not having any sort of backup at all, but it's not business continuity. It's not going to keep you up and running if something were to occur. And then that file-based backup, backing up, picking and choosing the files you want to back up at the file level, again, better than not having anything. Again, very prevalent, but not true business continuity. So when we talk about business continuity, we really try to break it down to 2 main components. And the first, that you need a hybrid solution. So with Datto, you're going to have a device on-premise, and that's going to be taking the local backups. You're going to be able to do file restores there. You're going to be able to do virtualization from there. I'm going to get into what that is in a minute. But automatically, the data from that Datto device is going to go to both of our data centers. And they're, like I said, they're on opposite sides of the country. So the reason for that is very important. So if there was something that just occurred to your server, and your server were to go down, you have access to all that data on the Datto device. Now, if that Datto device is compromised as well, if one of those 3% disasters that we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation were to occur, well, now you've got a second copy of your data in our Toronto data center. Now, what if there's something that is, whatever's impacting your office is also impacting our data center in Toronto? Well, now you've got a third copy of that data on the other side of the country that you could access all your data and do all those things from. So the idea behind being a hybrid solution is to have multiple copies of your data in different geographical locations. That's key. So that no matter what's going on around you and around your environment, you have access to your data somewhere. And that's critical to having a true business continuity solution. The second and the most important piece is to be an image-based system. So we don't back up files at the file level. We're actually taking a snapshot of everything that lives on whatever system we're backing up, whether it's a server or critical workstation, which means we're backing up the operating systems, the applications, everything that lives on that device, we're backing up. And once we get that base image, from there on in, all we're doing is taking block-level incremental changes. Now, we could take these backups as often as every 5 minutes. Most folks are doing it on an hourly basis. But all we're backing up are the incremental changes. Now, what's unique to Datto is we have what's called inverse chain technology, which is a proprietary piece of technology, which really essentially just means that all of our backups are independent of one another. It's not the traditional style of backing up data where they're all layered upon previous backups. What this means is, well, if you get hit with ransomware and it infects that data, you could just roll back to your last clean backup and it will not have been infected. So you can just roll back to that last clean backup, spin up from there, take care of whatever issues you need to take care of with your actual device, and be back up and running in a matter of seconds. That's really the key to being an image-based backup system with this inverse chain technology. We see, I mean, on an hourly basis, I'm sure I could walk downstairs now to our tech support office and somebody is dealing with a ransomware attack. That's how prevalent it is. The idea behind business continuity is really twofold, right? You want to be able to reduce the amount of downtime. That's your recovery time objective. How much downtime can you absorb before it really starts to seriously impact you? You want to be able to reduce that. So if your server were to crash or you were to get hit with ransomware or one of these type of things and it's going to take you a day or two to get that data back, what does that cost to you? With a solution like that is you'll be able to be back up and running in a matter of seconds or minutes, really reducing that downtime. And then the second piece, obviously, as with any backup, is your recovery point objective. How much data can you lose before it really impacts your business? If you're using the antiquated way of just plugging in an external hard drive every Friday afternoon, backing up the files you think you need to back up, putting that USB drive in your car and driving it home with you, well, A, there's a lot of risk for user error there. B, who's testing those backups? But C, you run the risk of losing up to a week's worth of data, right? With an automated solution, you're taking that user error out of things. We are actively testing your backups. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But also, you're able to do it at whatever schedule you want. Like I said, most of the time it's hourly, but we can do it as granularly as every 5 minutes. So it's going to really reduce that amount of downtime. But I want to get into that virtualization piece that I mentioned, because that's really the key to business continuity. So if this is your server, your workstation, whatever it is that we're backing up, and it were to crash or go down, since everything that lived on that device lives on the Datto device, we're able to run a virtual instance of that in a matter of seconds, and you could access that from another PC. Okay, so you were able to do that it's just a few clicks from eTech to get you back up and running. All right, now what's also unique to Datto is that we're able to take active backups when you're in this virtualized state. So there's a lot of companies out there that allow you to get access to your data, which is cool, but you're not taking active backups. We're actually working as your server in that instance, backing up those files that are being changed, and when that server that went down is repaired or replaced, we're able to do a bare metal restore and get all of those changes back onto the new server and get you back up and running. All right, so the idea here behind virtualization is to eliminate that downtime. You come in on a Monday morning, something's wrong with your server, or you get hit with ransomware, you know that you've got a solution in place that allow you to keep your business up and running during anything that's happening. All right, so obviously you're going to reduce that downtime. You're going to help your RTO and RPO, so reducing the amount of data loss as well. And you have the ability to do it both from the device. If it's a Cirrus device, one of our flagship products, you do it both from the device, or you could do it from the cloud. So if that device were to be compromised as well in in a fire or flood or something like that, you could access all of that data and the virtualization capabilities, leverage the resources in our cloud to get access to that, which is great. Now, a lot of times we go around and we do what's called the Datto disaster demo. Some folks might have seen it. You can go online and you can Google Datto disaster demo. You'll see some cool things. But typically what we do to illustrate this, because we want to keep things exciting, You can't do it on a webinar, obviously, but we light things on fire, right? So I will be giving this presentation on a laptop. We light it on fire. Sometimes we pick out the most bored guy in the room. We let him come up and smash my laptop. Then we light it on fire anyway because people like fires and it's exciting. We think of other creative ways to do it. The reason that we've kind of pared back a little bit on the fires, we've moved on to smashing things with hammers. I will just take a little moment here to go on a quick story. I think it's a funny story. So this is my boss. This is when we're opening our Australian office. So he's giving a presentation to a group of managed service providers down there. It's going really well. It's our first trip to Australia. We bring out our director of sales engineering to do the demo, and he lights a pretty aggressive flame. We get a 6-foot flame from this flash paper, right? Everybody's oohing and eyeing. The problem is they're a little bit more sensitive to fires down there in Australia, and so this sets off the fire alarm in this conference room that we're at. But not just in the conference room, in the 450-room hotel that's attached to it. So of course on our first trip to Australia we have a truck roll and we've got 4 Brisbane firefighters that get out and stand in the back of the room and want to make sure that the dumb Americans aren't going to light any more fires in their country. My boss gets off the stage. They hand him a $7,000 fine. So now we have to call our CEO and ask him, say, hey, we need to get this approved or we might not be able to leave the country here on our first trip. As much as we love Australia, I don't plan on raising my kids here. So he listens to the whole story, the long pause, and he says, well, did they like it? And we said, yeah, they loved it. And he says, well, great, then we'll pay it. So I guess sometimes it's good to have a 31-year-old CEO. So we have pared back the fires. But the idea here is that showing people exactly how it works. You knock out the device in a creative way where it's known that there's no way you're doing anything off of that workstation anymore. But because we've got that backed up to a data device, we could just access it through the data device in a matter of seconds and get it up and running. And we do the remainder of the presentation from a separate laptop, which is very critical. I mentioned testing the backups, which is a huge part of this. I mean, most of the time, you don't know whether your backups are valid until a disaster strikes, right? And you're keeping your fingers crossed, saying, we've been pressing the record button on that tape for the last 3 years. I hope that we've been doing it properly. With our solution, we actually are actively testing those backups, and we could send you an email at the end of every day letting you know that the backups have been successful. This is the screenshot. We call it screenshot verification because we're basically showing you that we were able to boot up a start screen that the backups were valid. So we're giving you the proof that that backup happened. Obviously, the key to this is giving you that peace of mind. When you come into work on a Monday morning, you know that your last backup was valid because you've got that backup there. And it's also giving you the peace of mind that if something were to go wrong, you're being proactively notified about it. Right? So you could address whatever issue there is when there isn't a disaster taking place, when there isn't downtime taking place. You could address it proactively instead of finding out during the worst day of your year when your system crashes, right? So you're able to do that proactively. Very key component to this. Being able to test those backups and make sure that they're valid is key. So just to go back, just to recap things, as I said, we tried to break down business continuity as simply as possible, but the 2 main components, one being that it's a hybrid cloud-based solution. So you've got the on-premise device that's taking those backups. You're able to do file restores right from that device. You're able to virtualize right from that device. But if that device were compromised, you've got a second copy of your data there in Toronto, and then you've got a third copy of your data out in Calgary. So you've got 3 copies of your data in different locations, which gives you that peace of mind. And no matter what's going on around you, you're going to have access to that data. The image-based backup is key as well. That's what gives us the ability to do that virtualization. Because we're capturing everything that lives on that system, we could virtualize the entire thing. We could do that both locally and from the cloud. Again, the whole goal here is to eliminate that downtime to as much of an extent as possible. How much does it cost you to just have your entire office sitting around twiddling their thumbs not having access to your data? Now, what is that doing to the reputation of your company when you're not able to have access to your data? Again, the goal here, twofold: reduce that downtime and also reduce the amount of data you would be losing if something were to go down. So, having an automated system that takes the user error out of it, is testing those backups actively, and doing it in an automated fashion on a set schedule that you can choose. All right, that's key. So, the key, just to kind of reiterate about the importance of that RTO and RPO, I want to show you this quick chart so that that star to the far left of your screen would represent your last backup. If we gave the example earlier of backing up your data at the end of every week. Now between when that star when your last backup is and when the disaster strikes could be a week's worth of data. can you absorb losing a week's worth of data? If that backup wasn't good, it wasn't a clean backup because you haven't been testing it, that could be far longer. So the idea is to reduce that to 5 minutes or hourly or whatever you want to set your settings at. The amount of downtime is critical as well. Depending on, everyone's in a different, business model, but, can you be down for a couple days? Can you be down for a couple hours without it really seriously impacting your business? The idea is to reduce that as much as possible. So that star all the way to the right would represent when you're back up and running after disaster strikes. Okay, if you get hit with ransomware and you don't decide to pay the Bitcoin, you don't want it, and you want to fight it, will it be 3-4 days before you can get back up and running using your other backup system, instead of being up in a matter of seconds with a couple of clicks to get that virtualized state? In terms of the different solutions that we offer, I mean, it's very scalable. So we've got solutions for very small businesses, 0 to 150 gigs, all the way up to the large rack mount 60 terabyte devices. We could back up Windows environments, we could back up Linux environments, and we actually have the only image-based Mac agent out there that could back up at the image-based level Mac machines as well. We can't virtualize because of licensing reasons, obviously, but we can virtualize we can also virtualize the Linux boxes and the Windows boxes. So we've got environments there. We could back up virtual environments as well. We could back up SaaS applications as well. So if you're using Google Apps or Salesforce or Office 365, SharePoint, any of those things, we could back those up as well. So really, wherever that data lives, we've got a way to protect it. So I will open it up to any questions. If anybody has any questions, as Ian mentioned, everybody's muted, but there's a question field at the bottom. You could feel free to jot in any questions you like. I will give you can check out more information at datto.com or send Ian an email at ievans@etechcomputing.com. But I will open it up to questions. I do see there's one on there now, Ian, just about retention, and I think I could take a first stab at it and let you kind of elaborate on it. But what kind of retention policies we have? There are a lot of different options. I mean, we have an option where you could have unlimited cloud storage. The traditional way is really the 1-year time-based retention, where you get 1 year of unlimited cloud retention, and then the incremental backups that are older than a year would start to prune off. That's what the cloud backup is. Typically on the local device, people are keeping around 3 months of data on the local device and pushing the rest of it to the cloud. Ian, what are you seeing that most of your clients are using for the retention policies?
Our default is 365, so any client can, in the event of a disaster, restore or connect to the Datto device in the cloud, and we keep up to 365 days of retention. So that is the default, and I understand that Datto does now have unlimited retention with their devices. So if a customer needs to keep data for longer than 365, maybe due to audit purposes, we can also keep the data longer than that.
That's great. Yeah, and we focus a lot on ransomware. I mean, are you hearing a lot of that from your clients? The kind of fear over ransomware, is that something you're very cognizant of?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of requests now. I have a question, actually. Good timing. Someone asked about how serious is ransomware in Canada. Is something that we should be really concerned about in Canada, because we're seeing that it is rampant in the U.S. But how serious is it in our country?
Yeah, it's actually the rate per capita is second only to America. I mean, most of the hackers are based out of Eastern Europe or Russia, but they're attacking North America at a higher rate because they're just really going to go after places that have money and know that they don't want to absorb that downtime. So it's very rampant in Canada, especially over the last 12 months. We did a survey recently of our partners all through North America. We had about 1,000 respondents, and I mean, the numbers, it was specifically about ransomware. It was the largest ransomware survey done to date. And the results were staggering. This is from Canada and America, but 94% of our partners have had a client with at least one instance of ransomware in the last 12 months, and 43% of them had 6 or more clients with instances of ransomware. And that really was spread right through, the numbers kind of mirrored each other, whether they were Canadian partners or American partners.
Okay. I see a question regarding replication to the cloud. So in the event that the office and also the local data device is unavailable, and the customer would need to connect to the Toronto data center, for example.
Mhm.
What would be involved in that? And do they have access to the same images that they would have had locally? So would they be able to just log in to the image in the cloud and their staff would be able to continue working?
Yeah, absolutely. And essentially you'd be assigned specific VPN keys to have access to that. So, and the data is all secure both in transit from the cloud and at rest in the cloud. So it's 256-bit military-grade encryption. So it's encrypted both in transit and at rest. And yeah, you'd have anything that lived on that device that you had that we were backing up, whether it was the applications or operating systems and everything. I mean, you'd need to be on a device that can read that. So if you've got a specific application that you'd need that same application on whatever device you're remoting into to open it, obviously. But yeah, you'd have it would honestly, it looks just like you're working off your server. We've had folks who have spun up with the data and their employees don't even really know that they're in a virtual instance. It really works that well.
Okay, that's good. I'm not seeing any more questions, Michael.
Yeah, I
Or
don't
just
see any
those that
more
came in.
either.
Does anyone else have a question?
Oh, I think there's one coming in. If the data to backup is huge, in other words, the backup, how will this go? The cloud backup. Would it slow the internet connection? Well, so if you are spinning it up in the cloud, it will be bandwidth dependent. Obviously, there's nothing we could do about the bandwidth. But I would encourage you to set up a demo with Ian's team, and it would be with our team as well, because you could see it's not taking up too much resources. It really isn't going to be much of a slowdown. What we'll do is, we'll take a look at your actual environment. We'll do a demo through GoToMeeting on a one-on-one basis, where you could actually see the interface of how quickly it spins up and how quickly it really works. So we could spin it up both from a local device or from the cloud, and you could see that the effectiveness and the speed of your system is not really slowed down. And we could spin up multiple VMs at once from the same device as well. And we could allocate specific resources from the device to whatever server we need to. So if we need to allocate more RAM or whatever, we can do that, and it's all controlled through the portal. So I don't see any more, Ian. If anybody does have any
Yeah,
other
that's it.
questions. Yeah, but I would encourage you, I mean, I think really, we kind of gave a high-level explanation of what business continuity is, what the solution provides. I definitely encourage you to reach out to Ian and his team to get into a more deeper dive into your specific environment, because every environment's different. This is not a type of product where you could just go to the store and buy it off the shelf. It's going to be really custom designed to your environment. So I highly encourage there to be some one-on-one follow-up to really get a sense of what's needed. But yeah, and feel free to check out any more information you need at datto.com as well about the product.
Okay. All right, Michael, thank you very much. I also would like to thank all the attendees for attending, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.